Sanji and Zoro hunted a dinosaur together, just like the good old days at Whiskey Peak. Jinbe successfully extinguished the fire and saved the kids, Gunko appeared in front of Colon's team, and Scopper Gaban sensed the three holy knights, who most likely hid their presence. No one else in Elbaf noticed them, which shows that Scopper Gaban is actually a very powerful observation hockey user. That's a short review of the chapter. Now let's move on to the most interesting and fun part. Let's talk about Loki, Rocksteady, Xebec, and Luffy. Loki didn't set out to sea until 14 years ago, while the legendary God Valley incident happened 38 years ago. That timeline suggests the Rocks pirates once visited Elbaf. What was Xebec doing there? I'm thinking that Scopper was protecting Roger on Elbaf while he recovered from injuries he got from Xebec. Roger said he had been thinking about something for a year before going after Rocks. I think Roger was defeated by Rocks, or at least seriously injured by him, and sometime before the God Valley incident, Rocks went to Elbaf to meet him. Of course, we don't know why. It's interesting how Oda only showed Whitebeard and Xebec. We didn't see Kaido or Big Mom, and we don't know if they were already members of the Rocks pirates when they met Loki. If they were, it would make perfect sense why both Big Mom and Kaido, former Rocks crew members, used techniques inspired by giants in Elbaf. There's also a possibility that Loki and Kaido are actually brothers, and that Loki wanted to join the crew because of him, but that's less likely. Still, I'm sure Oda's cooking something with these connections, resemblances, and parallels between Loki, Kaido, Harold, and now even the Rocks pirates. If these are just coincidence and there's no real connection, it would be strange, because both Kaido and Loki wielded a kanabo when they were children. Kaido had this weapon before he joined the Rocks pirates, and as we saw in this chapter, Loki already had it as well before meeting Rocks, so there isn't even a small chance that one inspired the other. It feels deeper than that. Big Mom makes Kaido's connection even more powerful because I believe these two characters will return to the story. The fact that their childhoods still hold mysteries is one clue. The second clue is that Elbaf's weaknesses are fire and lightning, which just happen to be Big Mom's exact powers. And in this chapter, we saw a homie shield. Let's be honest, a homie shield for Goldberg by Big Mom just because his father fought her? Oda couldn't make it more obvious that Big Mom will return. That detail changes nothing for the story unless Oda is setting up her return. I think this was the 5th time someone mentioned her during this arc, and I think we're getting closer to a God Valley number 2 at Elbaf. It started with the Holy Knights, then we got hints about Kaido and Big Mom, and now we've seen Xebec and Whitebeard. Also, don't forget Shanks, Shamrock, and their father. Just a coincidence? We'll see. But I believe the full truth about Rocksteady Xebec will be revealed in this arc, and I will explain why. Loki's entire story is built on rejection. Rocks refused him, Lola turned him down, Elbaf cast him aside. Even his own brother became a rival. But now, Loki has been accepted by Monkey D. Luffy. Even before this chapter, these two got along really well. Luffy befriended and trusted him super quickly, and usually Luffy has great intuition, maybe even the best. And in this chapter, we saw Luffy giving Loki food. And as you know, Luffy doesn't share food easily. Of course, this pattern is a running joke, but it also gives us some hints. In the Fishman Island arc, Luffy said, "A hero shares the meat, and the pirates eat the meat." And then he said he wants to eat all the meat, meaning he doesn't want to share food with anyone. Usually, the opposite happens. He steals food from others because his own is never enough. But in chapter 214 of the manga, he was willing to share some meat with Nami to cheer her up. During the Thriller Bark arc, he offered Zoro his lunch just so he would agree to come with them. And in Wano, he gave an apple to Otama. In 1145 chapters, Luffy has only shared food 3 times, and it was with his crewmates and a child. For Luffy, sharing food means sharing trust. Remember how grateful he was when Rebecca bought food for him at the Dressrosa Coliseum? Later, he even said he was fighting Doflamingo because of that food. Of course, it was a joke in the story, but for Luffy, I'm not so sure. Yes, some might say that this food was meant for Loki from the start, but as I mentioned, Luffy has no problem stealing food when he wants to eat. And in this chapter, we saw the opposite. Luffy was determined to make Loki eat and get better. He brought him meat and soup. This shows that Luffy sees Loki as a friend and as someone he can trust. After revealing that Loki wanted to join Rocks, many people now believe that Loki might join Blackbeard instead. Blackbeard represents darkness, and Prince Loki seems to have devoted himself to that same darkness. The parallels between them are striking. Blackbeard killed Thatch to steal a devil fruit. Loki did the same to his own father, Harold. We don't know all the details yet, of course, but the story's similarities are undeniable. Blackbeard sails on a ship called the Saber of Xebec, hinting at a possible connections to Rock D. Xebec himself, maybe even as his son. Loki admired Rock, so maybe now he will join his son, a man who wants to conquer the world. It's not a bad theory, but I don't think Luffy will let that happen. What I mean is that Luffy saw the good side of Loki and he will save him, because that's what Luffy usually does. Also, the two of them have far more in common than it seems. They're both healed by eating meat. Both have eaten legendary devil fruits. Both represent different sides of Nika, Luffy as liberation and joy, and Loki as destruction and wrath. They even follow in the footsteps of powerful idols. Luffy looked up to Shanks, Loki idolized Rocks. Even though both of them had idols, their paths couldn't be more different. Luffy chose the light, inspired by Shanks. Loki followed the darkness left behind by Xebec. So, Luffy will fix that. Or maybe Loki didn't even choose this path. Maybe Rox's rejection was the first step that made Loki start hating the world. We don't know what kind of person Xebec truly was, and that's the most confusing part. It feels like there was a strong connection between Rocks and Whitebeard. Whitebeard was clearly his first mate and showed the utmost respect for him. He must have seen Rocks as someone who could change the world, probably in the same way Zoro sees Luffy. Other powerful pirates like Shiki, Big Mom, and Kaido joining him hints that maybe Xebec wasn't that evil. He hated the world government and wanted to kill celestial dragons. That sounds like a noble cause, but then again, villains like Blackbeard idolize him. And in this chapter, we saw Xebec stabbing a kid without hesitation. Even Whitebeard disagreed with that decision. I believe something happened that changed Whitebeard's perspective on Rocks down the line. If we look at Big Mom and Whitebeard's beliefs, we can speculate that Xebec had a total disregard for morals and honor. Of course, we can't call Xebec a good person, but we also don't know how truly evil he was. The fact that the Rocks pirates despised him but still followed and obeyed him suggests that he had overwhelming charisma and authority. Could Rocks be the eye patch character Oda once mentioned? It would make perfect sense to give the ultimate badass pirate a classic pirate trait. We saw both of his eyes in earlier panels, but Oda has a habit of redesigning characters after showing their silhouettes, so it wouldn't be surprising. I don't think it's a coincidence that Oda only showed one of Xebec's eyes and conveniently covered the other with text. Also, I haven't seen anyone mention this, but visually, Xebec looks a lot like Joy Boy. Xebec is the one character who connects to every Yonko in the story. Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom were part of his crew. He's connected to Shanks because of the God Valley incident. We don't know exactly what happened there, but one thing is clear. After Xebec's attack, Roger's crew found Figureland Garling's son, Shanks, in a treasure chest. And that's crazy to think about. Without Xebec, Shanks wouldn't have been raised by pirates. He wouldn't have met Luffy. He wouldn't have inspired Luffy to become a pirate or eat the Nika devil fruit. Xebec also has parallels with Blackbeard, and I already talked about those. The only two Yonkos left are Buggy and Luffy. There are a lot of theories that Buggy is Xebec's son, and honestly, it makes sense. Sure, Buggy isn't as strong as Rocks, but maybe that's why he ended up the way he is. Maybe his charisma and crazy luck to gain authority come from that legacy. But what kind of connection does Rocks have with Luffy? If you want to find out, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the theory video coming out this weekend.